Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Planetarium show. My name is Jessica. I'm the director of the Planetarium, and with me here tonight are three of our students who work at the Planetarium. I will let them all kind of introduce themselves and say hi, and we'll start with probably the most familiar of the three, Eli.
Everyone, my name is Eli. I'm a physics and astronomy student at UMD.
Rachel?
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a biology and environmental student at UMD.
And last but not least,
Hi, I'm Jenna, and I'm a graphic design student at UMD.
yeah, also, by the way, totally about to plug you, Jenna. If you are not following our Instagram page, you should totally go follow our Instagram page because Jenna has been doing amazing stuff with it. So yeah, go check that out. Anyway, welcome everyone. Since it is the beginning of a new month, and I swear I have said this every month since we've started streaming, I cannot believe we are at the beginning of another month. We are doing our regular beginning of the month shows. So tonight is What's Up November edition, where we're going to take a look at the astronomical events happening this month. Before I jump into that, as always, if you have any questions throughout the show, feel free to leave them down in the comments. Eli's going to keep an eye on that for me and will let me know as questions come up. All right, with that, let me get set up. You guys, I don't think I'm going to share my screen with you guys because it causes problems sometimes. Sorry, you're hearing behind the scenes stuff, all of our wonderful Facebook peeps. All right, desktop display, present, there we go. All right. So, for our astronomical events happening this month, we're going to start off with what the moon is doing. So we start off this month tomorrow with a new moon. Then about a week after that, November 11th, is the first quarter. About a week after that, on November 19th, is our full moon. The full moon for November is often called the beaver moon or the frost moon. And then at the end of the month, on November 27th, we have our third quarter moon. You can also see here kind of the times that the different phases of the moon are going to be up. They are up at different times. This is due to the phase being dependent on where the moon is in its orbit around the Earth, and that's also going to determine what part of the day we see it. And that's why we sometimes can see it up during the day and why we sometimes see it at night. Now, we do have a really exciting thing with the moon happening this month. During our full moon, we are going to have a partial lunar eclipse happening on November 19th. This is kind of showing the map of everyone who can see the lunar eclipse. So everyone in kind of the darker pink will see the entire eclipse. So you see all of us here in North America will be able to see the entire partial lunar eclipse that's happening. And then those kind of lying on the outer edge, the kind of lighter pink, lighter blue, those will see part of the eclipse but won't see the entire thing. So let's talk a little bit about this. What is a lunar eclipse? So a lunar eclipse happens when the moon passes into Earth's shadow. Yes, Earth has a shadow caused by the sun, and when the moon passes through it, that means the sunlight doesn't hit the moon and bounce off of it and come back to our eyes, and so the moon is dark, and that's what we get with our eclipse. Now, you can have different types of lunar eclipses depending on what part of the moon's shadow, what part of the Earth's shadow the moon goes through. So if the moon only goes through Earth's penumbra, that is the region of kind of partial shadow, so you still get some direct sunlight when you're in the penumbra. Then we have a penumbral eclipse. And you can see here, this is a penumbral eclipse. It really doesn't look that dramatic. Doesn't look like much is happening. In fact, if you didn't even know that a penumbral eclipse was happening, you probably wouldn't tell any difference. Now, if part of the moon passes into the Earth's umbra, the umbra being the kind of deep dark shadow. That's the area where the sun is completely blocked by the Earth. So if part of the moon passes through the umbra, you end up with a partial lunar eclipse. And the part of the moon that's in the umbra you see as the dark part of the moon. And then if the entire moon ends up passing into the Earth's umbra, that's when you get a total lunar eclipse. Now, the eclipse that we have coming up this month is a partial lunar eclipse, which means as the moon is moving through Earth's shadow, it's not going to be entirely in the umbra at any point during that, although it is going to be pretty darn close. So for us here in Duluth, this is kind of the timing that you can expect. Unfortunately, this is happening very early in the morning, which I think is good for me because honestly, I will probably be up at this time anyway. But you can see here, it's going to start at about 12 o'clock in the morning. It's going to reach maximum. That's when the most of the moon is in the Earth's umbra at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and then the eclipse will end at about 6 a.m. And on the left here, you're seeing what that maximum looks like. So you can see that most of the moon is going to be in the umbra, and just a tiny little sliver is not. So it's a very, very deep partial, but not quite a total. So this is just a kind of animation of what's happening here. We can see starting at about midnight, that's when the moon is going to start passing into the Earth's penumbra, and the penumbral phase will begin. Then at about 1:18 a.m., that's when the moon is going to reach the umbra and will start reaching the partial phase. Again, maximum is going to happen at about 3:02 a.m. And that's when the most of the moon will be in the Earth's umbra. And then it'll start making its way back out, with the partial phase ending at about 4:47 a.m., at which point the moon is only in the Earth's penumbra, and it will start moving out of that, with the penumbral phase and the entirety of the eclipse finishing up at about 6:03 a.m. Now, as I said, this is for us specifically here in Duluth, although you can find out the exact timings for your location. I have put a link in the video description that goes to timeanddate.com. That has all the information you need about specifics for your location, so you can go there and figure out what those timings are going to be. So here's hoping for some good coffee that night and some clear skies so that we can see this partial lunar eclipse. And I will say, I haven't talked to any of my students about this yet, but since I'm already up at that time, I might just throw a telescope out and do like a live stream with the telescope. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not promising anything because, again, it is at like 3 o'clock in the morning, but we'll see how things are going then. Let me know if you'd be interested in watching that. All right, so moving on from the moon, we also have lots of planets that are going to be visible over this month. So we're going to start in the morning sky. We have Mercury still visible up in the east just before sunrise. However, Mercury is only going to be visible for the first half of the month. It is slowly making its way back around its orbit, inching closer and closer to the sun. So by about mid-month, it's going to be close enough to the sun that it's going to be too difficult for us to see it anymore. So just the first half of the month, we'll see it over in the kind of east-southeast just before sunrise. Now, also making an appearance in the morning sky is the planet Mars. Now, Mars is primarily going to be best seen in the second half of the month, also showing up in the east-southeast just before sunrise. And you can see here on November 10th, we actually have a very close conjunction of Mercury and Mars. They'll be kind of just passing by each other as Mercury heads closer to the sun and Mars is moving out away from the sun. And then we'll have Mars visible for the second half of the month and for probably a good while after as well up in the morning sky, which you can see here at the end of the month. Mars nice and up and visible in our early morning just before sunrise. All right, now heading over to the evening sky, Venus is still hanging out over in the west just after sunset. It should be visible all month, although it is slowly making its way back towards the sun, and so it'll be getting kind of lower and lower in the sky around sunset, but still there, very bright and obvious. It'll be probably the first bright light you see over in the southwest right after sunset. Also up in the sky over in the south, right after sunset and through about midnight, are Jupiter and Saturn. They're still hanging out with us after having some lovely viewings with them over the summer, but they'll still be there, nice, bright, and beautiful in the south from, again, sunset to about midnight. Lastly, Uranus and Neptune are up in the kind of later night sky. These two planets you cannot see with your naked eye, unfortunately, but if you have a small telescope or even a pair of binoculars, you can see them. And they will appear as kind of small dots of light, but you should be able to tell that it's not a pinpoint of light like stars appear, but is actually like a disk, and that disk may even have a bluish tint to it, since the planets themselves are blue in color. So they are both going to be up pretty much most of the night, although you do really want it to be good and dark by the time you try and look for them. So well after sunset would be ideal to look for them. Uranus in particular is going to be best seen over the next few days. November 5th is when it reaches what we call opposition. Opposition is the time when Earth is passing the planet while they're kind of both orbiting around the sun. And so it's kind of the closest approach that we get to a planet is during opposition. Since Uranus will be at opposition, that means it's going to be the biggest and brightest that we are able to see it from here on Earth, which makes the best time to try and go see it. Now, if you notice that our planets here all make this nice little line in the sky, that's not coincidence. What you're seeing here is actually the shape of our solar system. Our solar system is a flat disk, and the planets all lie in pretty much the same plane as they orbit around the sun, and that means that they fall along this line, which we call the ecliptic, which is basically a projection of the plane, the disk of our solar system. And so it's always a really useful tool. If you can find a few visible planets, you can trace out where the ecliptic is, and that can help you spot Uranus and Neptune up in the sky through your binoculars or telescope, because you know it's going to align or lie along this line. Okay. We also have a few meteor showers going on this month. It's a very exciting month, lots going on. So before we get into the specifics of which meteor showers are happening and when, let's talk a little bit about what a meteor shower is. So meteor showers are most often due to debris left behind by comets. So comets are basically dirty snowballs, right? They're bundles of ice and rock and dust. And when they come in close to the sun, the heat of the sun vaporizes the ices, and that can carry along the dust that's mixed in with it as well. And that dust then gets left behind along the orbit that the comet is following around the sun. So you end up with just this trail of dusty debris left behind along the comet's orbit. Well, if that trail of debris happens to cross our path, then we will move through that debris, and as those little dust particles hit our atmosphere, fall through the atmosphere, they heat up and they glow, and we get those beautiful streaks of light that we call meteors or shooting stars. And meteor showers happen because we're moving through that debris trail. So you're getting lots of debris coming through at the same time, and so you end up with lots of these meteors happening. So the first set of meteor showers taking place are the Torrids. This is an interesting meteor shower because it's actually split into two parts, the northern Torrids and the southern Torrids, that happen at slightly different times. So first up, happening in just a couple days, is the southern Torrids. These usually run from late November to about December 2nd, with the peak happening on, late September to early December, with the peak happening on November 5th. This is a moderate shower. We're talking, 5 to 10 meteors per hour, but the Torrids are known to produce kind of larger meteors, which we call fireballs, because the Torrids, the particles that we're moving through, on average, tend to be a little bit bigger in size. And so you can get these brighter, more vibrant meteors during this meteor shower. For the southern Torrid peak, we will be right at a new moon, which means we will not have a moon to compete with. So if you want to try your luck, you're going to want to head out sometime after midnight. Now, the meteors are going to look as if they're originating from the area of the sky associated with the constellation of Taurus. That's where the name Torrids comes from. So you actually don't want to look directly at Taurus. What you want to do is look to either side so that you can watch the trail as it falls through the atmosphere. And then a couple weeks later, we have the peak of the northern Torrids, which is going to peak on November 12th. And pretty much the same idea, moderate shower, about 5 to 10 meteors per hour, but known to produce some bright fireballs. So that is our first set of meteor showers happening. And the next set is going to be a little bit after the last of our Torrids, and this is the Leonids. So the Leonids typically run from November 3rd to December 2nd, with this year the peak happening around November 18th. This is another kind of moderate meteor shower. We're probably looking at about 15 meteors per hour. Unfortunately, this is around the full moon, so we are going to be competing with the bright full moon, and that could make it difficult to see the meteors from this meteor shower. But again, as with most meteor showers, the best time to go out would be after midnight. And the Leonids, named such because the meteors appeared to come from Leo, which is going to be over in the east. So you're going to want to look towards, probably more towards the north or the south, to be able to see the streaks, nice long streaks of the meteors. All right. Now, this month, we also have some really great International Space Station Passovers happening. So the ISS, or the International Space Station, is of course the space station where the astronauts that go up. I'm not explaining this well. Why am I not explaining this well? It's a space station where astronauts live and do science. When looking for Passovers of the International Space Station, generally you're going to see a bright light move across the sky. It will brighten for a little bit and then dim away as it continues to move on. So you're looking for just that steady bright light moving across the sky. Now for us here in Duluth, towards the kind of second half of the month, we have a lot of ISS Passovers happening after sunset. Here is a list of a lot of them happening. If you are interested in kind of learning more about this, or kind of having this list for yourself, or finding out when these are going to happen for you if you're not in Duluth, all of this information can be found at the website that is right down there, heavens-above.com. And so you can put in your location, you click on ISS, and it shows you when it's going to be visible from your location. A couple of things to note here. It'll tell you the time when this is happening. It'll also tell you the brightness. Now, this is a scale called magnitude, and it's a little bit backwards than what you may be used to. The smaller the number, the brighter it's going to be. And so you want to try and look for the ISS on particularly bright events, although all of these, anytime you have a negative, that is very bright. So these would all be great ones. Now, if you have one date in particular that you want to see, you can click on the date and it will bring you to more detailed information where it will show you the path that it will take across the sky. So you can figure out exactly where you need to look and how it's going to be moving. And we'll give you more information on kind of the timing of the event as well. So this one is specifically for that November 22nd event. So yeah, lots of great ISS Passovers as well happening. And that is pretty much the astronomical events for this month. I do have one more thing that I want to talk about since we've kind of been out of commission for most of October. As some of you may know, we back in the end of July launched our all-sky camera that's located up in northern Minnesota, up at the Chickawauk Museum and Nature Center. This is a wonderful location for a nighttime camera because it has very, very dark skies and also sees the aurora pretty often. Now, the idea with the camera is to take images all throughout the night, and then we kind of line them all up and splice them together to create these beautiful time-lapse videos. Unfortunately, in October, we ran into a little bit of issues with YouTube not liking our videos, and so we kind of went quiet for a little while, but I'm very, very happy that we have got everything kind of reworked so that we're no longer having to deal with YouTube. And so it is back up and operational. And so this is a video from just a few days ago, which started out as kind of a rainy, cloudy night, but we did end up getting the clouds parting for just a little bit, and we're able to catch a bit of aurora activity. So even through the clouds there, you could see just gorgeous views of the nighttime sky and of our Milky Way. And then as the clouds start to break up just a little bit over on the left, which is facing north for this camera, you can see the aurora there coming out. So if you're interested in kind of checking this out, I have linked the website for the camera down in the video description. You can also find the camera has a Facebook page. It's just Chickawauk All Sky Camera, where we post updates about the camera. If there's anything particularly exciting happening that we catch in time, we'll post about that. We also upload these time-lapse videos, so you can see those nightly videos every day. So yeah, we are back up and fully functioning, which I'm excited about. All right, well, I think that brings us to the end of What's Up November. So I think I will take a look, see if there's any questions.
I'm not seeing any.
No? All right, well, if anyone does have questions, now is a great time. Go ahead and leave them down in the comments. We'll give it a few minutes to see if any of those questions come through. In the meantime, I can tell you what's coming up over the next week. So on Saturday is our November Constellation show, where we'll take a look at the stars and constellations that will be out this month, and kind of tell some of the stories behind those constellations. Then next week, I'm going to go ahead and just put it out there, Eli. Eli's going to be running the show next week, as I am going to be off at a conference. And so next week we will have Star Wars Fact or Fiction, which is a fabulous show that Eli has been working on. And then next Saturday, I hope I got the right show, Eli, the Hunt for Intermediate Mass Black Holes. Right? Okay, good. Which is actually a really cool show because it's all about research that Eli is doing here at UMD. So it's I'm proud of him. Yeah, so that's what's coming up over the next week. All right. So I'm not seeing any questions. I'm glad that you enjoy everything.
That comment has a thing. It says anniversary follower, which I don't know what that means.
I don't
Like,
either.
oh, it says follow UMD Marshall WF Planetarium to earn this badge.
Maybe they've been following us for a year?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, thank you. That's really cool. I'm glad that you're enjoying everything. All right. I think that's it then. I'm gonna do one last plug for our Instagram page because Jenna is doing amazing stuff over there. We are UMD_Planetarium, or you can just search for Marshall W. Allworth Planetarium. We got a lot of great stuff up over there. Thank you to everyone who came out to our Halloween event last weekend. We had an amazing time. I hope everyone's enjoying the goodies that we passed out. And yeah, I think that'll do us. So thanks everyone for joining us. Have a great rest of your evening, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.